What is up, everybody? Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I am the 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. It's a Wednesday night, June 19th, and I have two Beautilicious black. I thought of Beautilicious Black Lady Magic is here in the house. It's been a little bit of a while. They've got so many things going on, but I always appreciate when they take time out of their positive, productive schedule to share with us. So first things first, how are you, Dr. Tachi?
I'm good. Lots of stuff going on, but I'm good.
Excellent. And Encyclopedia Brown?
I'm really good. Happy to be here. It's been too long.
Yeah, it has been too long, man. Armenian test is coming up, so I know that's wearing you out.
Yes, and preparing for the move too. So kind of in the final logistics phases of, planning the pack out, buying stuff we need, getting the tickets, getting passports, all that stuff.
Wow. So when is the move?
We leave August 12th and we get there the 13th.
Wow.
So,
Armenia.
less than 2 months, which is crazy. I can't even think about it.
Has it been a year already?
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's almost been a year because I left Bolivia June 29th.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. It's gone by quickly. It's gone by really quickly.
Well,
but the good news is we'll have to just rejigger our time because once I get to Armenia, until you guys fall back, we're 8 hours apart. So I'll be 8 hours ahead. So we'll have to figure that out.
We will.
Because 9 p.m. for you guys means like 5 a.m. for me. So that ain't going to work. But 10 p.m. is probably getting too late. So we'll figure it out.
We'll find a way.
Yeah, because we will have to keep this going. I refuse to let the time zone stop us.
No, because look, we met you in Bolivia. So we got you. We got you.
That's true. Yep.
So before we get started tonight, I already want to thank some people in the room. Herbie's Hangout. Thank you for inviting your followers. Of course, the irresputable Guts, Mr. Claude Diamond is in the house.
Hey, Claude Diamond.
Hey.
And Herbie just joined. Claude's watching on Periscope. Herbie's watching on the Get Vocal platform. So we're going to get right into it. And the hot topic right now, well, today, especially in the United States, is reparations. And we've lightly touched on this conversation topic before, but I thought today, it being Juneteenth, that it'd be a good day to discuss. And I have to give kudos to Senator Cory Booker for having these hearings happen on Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very strategic. So we'll just, as always, folks, if you have any questions or comments, if you're on the Get Vocal platform, you can give me the comments or you can jump into a square. I'm monitoring Periscope and YouTube. So if you have comments, questions, please make them happen. Who wants to start off on this reparations conversation? I know something tells me Encyclopedia Brown's going to start off.
Yes, Leah.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm happy to. I always defer to Tachi. All right. Well, I guess all I can say without getting too political is I think even though I'm assuming most of your audience knows what reparations means, maybe you could quickly sort of explain it because I think that might set the tone.
I think especially both of you, well, Tachi not by birth, but you by birth African Americans, I think you are the best to give an overview on it because I am a foreigner.
Okay, well, I can explain what it is, but I also don't think that I would qualify for it because my biological father, though his ancestors were enslaved, he's actually a citizen of another country as well. So my American heritage comes from my white mother. So I'm not going to be benefiting from any potential reparations that may or may not happen, even though I'm not holding my breath that it will happen.
So you know what you're saying. You're deferring it to Tachi.
No, I'm just saying that I know what it is and I can explain it, but I know that I will not be a potential beneficiary of any potential reparations that come down.
Okay.
But anyway, so essentially reparations, my understanding, and Tati can help clarify as I'm sure she will, is basically the repayment or the payment to African American ancestors who had enslaved ancestors for the labor that they were forced to give to the United States without any sort of compensation for that labor. And so it is basically repaying them for breaking their backs and building and making the country what it is today, in monetary remuneration, basically. And so obviously we can't give it to those ancestors who were here then because they've all since passed away, but their ancestors, if they can prove the lineage to African Americans who were formerly enslaved, there is a claim for compensation for the work that was put in by their ancestors to build this nation when they were not otherwise compensated. That's the basic version of it.
Did you do well, Dr. Tachi?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why she thinks I would have any more information than she does about reparations or whatever, because it's not firsthand, because I, like you, do not qualify. So
it's interesting. People will say you don't qualify, but why are you both passionate about it?
I mean, for me, I'm passionate about it because I believe in justice, and I believe in, paying what's been earned and paying what's due. And I definitely think that there's a valid, justifiable claim to the ancestors of enslaved African Americans for what they contributed to this country for free. I mean, because not only did they contribute their labor, they contributed their lives. And the repercussions of the period of enslavement in the United States are still reverberating today. So if the negative repercussions are still reverberating, then I think that they need to turn things around positively, because you can see in the African American community, economically, we're not where we should be. Academically, we're not where we should be. I'm not going to blame it completely on the slavery legacy, but I do think a lot of those our inability to kind of keep pace with the progress of other, groups in American society can be directly correlated to the fact that we were enslaved, and it kind of slowed and stunted our ability to grow and progress forward like every other subgroup in American culture. And if I don't think money is the only answer, but it's definitely something, and it's definitely a start, because it provides access as well, access to opportunity, access to basic life staples that other people get that African Americans were so long denied and certainly didn't receive as enslaved Africans when they were brought here. So I'm passionate about it because I do believe in justice, and I think that it's overdue. It's long overdue.
I will, just before Tachi continues on, want to shout out, of course, we forgot our biggest fan. Who did we forget?
Oh, is it a troublemaking fan, or is it
No, fellow soror.
Serena.
Of course.
Fine, right.
Yes, Divine Right is on the YouTube platform.
Bless you.
Okay, it was just a tickle, it's not illness.
No problem. And I can say also, reparations is not as, it's becoming an issue in Black African Canadian society also. So it's becoming a hot topic here. And we also have our presidential election, or federal election, happening in October. So it'll be interesting to see if it becomes part of the conversation topics in regards to that. Also want to shout out on the Get Vocal platform, Dre and Big Bad Brad. Thank you so much. Again, there is, Dre saying, I just got back from watching Emmanuel.
Oh.
See.
Wow.
There you go. Tachi, okay, there you go. I love how Dre's doing. New comment, must see. Dr. Tachi, why are you passionate about this subject?
Simply enough that from a humanistic standpoint, that these are people that have been wronged, so you should care. But number two, these are people that are even though I'm African, you could be Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Canadian, they're still your relatives in some way, shape, or form. These people are our relatives, and they've been wronged. It's just by circumstances, created circumstances, that we don't know who our actual relatives are, but these are all potential relatives. And so when people do family wrong, you're supposed to care, just on a very basic, simple level.
Okay. Does the conversation topic reparations come up in other topics in conversations you have with friends, associates at all?
It hasn't for me. We haven't sort of talked about it specifically. We kind of talk around it because I'm in a few groups where, friends groups where we're discussing, the race right now and sort of all the different candidates and their points of view and their perspectives. And sometimes we get into sort of conversations about what different candidates are saying about reparations and sort of, do we think that they could actually pull it off? Do we think this is even a real issue? Should we even bother to waste our time with it? Or are they just going to pay lip service to it like it's been in the past, where there's been a lot of lip service and no action? I think people are a little bit more optimistic this time because it's kind of moving beyond the typical candidates in terms of who's talking about it. It does seem to be an actual agenda item. I hate to be pessimistic because I'm typically optimistic, but I still don't believe it's going to produce any tangible, real result. But I mean, I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that something does come of it. But I would say in those specific groups where we're specifically talking about the race, yes, it comes up often, but like socially, I haven't had any conversations about it yet.
I just want to touch base. Leah, why are you not optimistic?
I mean, who would be with politics being what they are right now in the United States? But also whenever, I mean, in my life, whenever any topics or questions come up in the political space or the political realm related to things that could potentially benefit the African-American community, things that could potentially, quote unquote, level the playing field, things that could, quote unquote, make African Americans be full citizens and have full participation in our society, there is never, and I know you're not supposed to say never, but never have I seen real action or any real change. Like I said, it usually begins and ends at lip service. Maybe a bill might get introduced, but nothing ever happens. There's not a majority of votes. It doesn't get passed, and it doesn't result in any funding or legislation that is actual tangible result. So I am just going based on the past, and under, knowing the way things are under this current administration, I'm not optimistic.
Okay.
In fact, we have other congressmen, and I'm not going to say any names for obvious reasons, but we have other congressmen in the United States who are saying, because we had Obama as a president, that's a form of reparation. So he and maybe others who support his perspective are unwilling to even have the reparations conversation because they feel like that should be enough.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback when that individual made that comment.
Yeah. So I'm just like, and if that's a more widely held perspective, at least on that person's sort of side of politics, then that already lets me know that even if there is enough political will to kind of introduce this as something real, it's not going to have full support on both sides of the aisle, is what I see. So unfortunately, I don't feel optimistic about seeing anything tangible, and I really do hope that I'm wrong.
Okay. Just want to, before Tachi continues, Claude Diamond, thanks for sharing it to all your Twitter followers, and welcome to J Money Queen Bee on the Periscope side, and also at Flo M Bernard. Thanks for joining on Periscope. If you have any comments, please make them, and I will share them. Dr. Tachi.
Sir.
Encyclopedia Brown ain't sounding too optimistic. Is she? How do you feel about that? Do you emulate her feelings and thoughts?
Yeah, what is there to feel optimistic about?
Okay.
Black people, African Americans, are the only major group that have been wronged that have not been given any form of reparations. Don't give me the nonsense.
Outside of is it all political?
Oh, it's absolutely political. And here's the thing. If they really paid the debt that was owed, this country would be bankrupt. It's impossible. Why do you think and this is just a guesstimation on my part, the fact that they do all these other things like the legislation to do things, and it's not even really legislation that means anything, because these are that type of legislation assumes that we're not adept anyway, and we're more than adept. So that throws that out of the window. You can't pay back this debt. They just simply can't. And I think they know there's no way they can pay back the debt. So the better thing to do is to be in denial and say, oh, well, the fact that you had a black president was enough, which, by the way, let me tell that senator to go to hell. Let me just say that. Because that shows you have no critical thinking skills at all. And why? Who even elected you to office? And that's on us too. That we have such daft Americans that we would elect people who have such views. Shame on us. It wasn't me, but let me include myself on this. Shame on us. So there's nothing to be optimistic about, and to really. I think that many Black people have been operating under the guise of they're not going to do it anyway. They don't think they're guilty of anything. The people, the powers that be, don't think they're guilty of anything. They don't think they owe it to the descendants. And it's the same argument of, okay, people will say, well, that wasn't me. I wasn't the one who, yeah, but you continue to benefit from slave labor. This entire country was built on the backs of other people, and a large amount of it was slave labor. So unless you're actively doing something to better the lives of the descendants who were affected by this, you're just as guilty. I'm sorry, you really are. So that plus all the other things doesn't really give one hope, hope to be optimistic. We keep going with this hope thing and it's going nowhere. So that doesn't mean don't be hopeful. That just means don't be passively hopeful. You have to take action. Probably reparations is not going to come. I hope I'm wrong, like Leah said, but probably that's not going to happen. So you have to continue to operate under the guise of they're not going to do anything. They're not going to give us anything. So you just have to make your own opportunities and you have to take it. Don't wait for them to say okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I'll be very interested to see, and I know Leah can't talk too much about politics in regards to see if what the Democratic Party is going to do with this subject, because this is a one day. It's got its big one day.
Mm-hmm.
What will they be able to incorporate that in their platform, and will it get the buy-in not only from non-melanated people but by melanated people?
I don't think you have a problem. Sorry, Leah. I don't think there'll be a
no. Leah,
You good. I'm good.
Go, man, go.
I don't think we'll have a problem getting the buy-in from melanated people, except for the lost, unwoke melanated people who just have to prove how for the system they are. Those ones, the ones that are waste of skin anyway, but the ones who I don't think will have a problem getting buy-in from melanated people. I think they are, I have no tolerance. I am tired yet, just like other people are tired of political correctness. I'm tired of making other people feel good when they don't deserve to feel good. So I have to feel bad. So I can save your feelings. I will not. No, sir, no, ma'am, green eggs and ham. So I don't think we'll have a problem getting buy-in from melanated people on this one. What I think remains to be seen with the Democratic Party and all the 75 million people that have decided to run is how serious they are about making that an agenda item. And, I believe that this has been something that has been pushed to the forefront, but I don't necessarily think that is something that is on every candidate's list right now. Not really. Some people are more passionate about the environment and environmental things like Sanders, etc. So, they all come with their own agendas. I don't think that for many of them, this was something that was at the forefront of their agenda, but people are going to want them to answer for this and to this and to know where they stand on this. So it will be interesting to see. I don't know, but it will be interesting to see what they do and how they answer for it and what plans they come up with in order to address this. And, I think that we also need to think that it may not necessarily be a monetary thing. It may not be, again, there's no amount of money that you can pay to fix this. You can't.
I don't even think you can quantify.
You can't quantify it. So yeah. So since you can't put a number on it, you certainly can't pay for it. So that tells you it supersedes any monetary value. So you're going to have, I think it comes to looking at ways of, okay, well, how can we repair this? Is it reparable? What can we do? And that's another thing. So again, you can hear the exasperation in my voice and the hashtag side eye, because I just don't believe when they talk about these things, it's election season. Of course, they're going to want to appeal to a base of melanated people to get their votes. If we look at what happened in Alabama, it was Black women with the governorship or whatever. Not the governorship. I can't remember. Right. So it was Black women that changed the tide. They were solely responsible. You're welcome for doing that, for changing that. So they're looking now. I don't know why we haven't been looking at Black people before, but now people are, oh, well, they have voting power. They actually buy things. So now that people are realizing the power, there's more of an effort to try and appeal to melanated people. What I would hope is that they're thinking it through, coming at it sincerely, and B, also urging melanated people not to fall for the hype and do your research.
Yeah. You know what, Tachi? I know you do you do T-shirts. You need to do a T-shirt with "You are a waste of skin." I think. It's got to happen. Something like "Don't bother me, you waste of skin." You have to do that.
So funny. I'd buy that.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Okay, add it to the shop, the Black Lady Magic shop. Yeah. That should be part of the T-shirt line. That should be the first shirt.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like Divine Right is saying exactly, Tachi, the amount of money that would be paid out would bankrupt the U.S. and then some. Yeah. And then Divine Right goes, "A waste of skin," and there's like 6 exclamation points, LMBO after it.
There are too many people that are a waste of skin. I mean, God, like, I don't even want to get into it, but yes,
so
it's a lot.
It's exasperating. It's
everything.
Yes, it's just like.
I know.
That's you gotta design it. I'll buy one. Just make it XXL. I'm buying it. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Let's make it happen.
The first T-shirt item in the shop.
There you go. Want to shout out on the Get Vocal platform, Aaron. Thanks for stopping by, and also Ms. Danny. That is good. Does the Black or African American environment have any blame for reparations not being further ahead than where it is right now? Is there any responsibility put on the African Americans over the years, or is it solely a non-melanated issue?
I would say like 99.9% is the non-melanated issue and a political issue, but I will always put a little bit of responsibility on us for not demanding more the things that we think that we want. We've seen in the history of the United States, and I think really movements globally, that change doesn't really happen unless we kind of come together as one larger group. Regardless of the varying opinions, if we can kind of agree on one major tenet, then usually we get things done. Civil rights movement is an example. I mean, you had people who ran the spectrum of political belief, ran the spectrum of religious belief, and until they came together, there was really no result. Because there wasn't enough pressure. When they keep us sort of stratified and divided the way we are now, and the way that I think is intended, so that we do not have this power, we are really not capable of bringing about the kind of change we want to see. And I would also encourage, people who, and this goes back to the Alabama example, and this is how I actually met Dr. Vi, was the article that I wrote about this sort of roundabout topic. It wasn't about reparations specifically, but it was about how Black voting power really does make a difference, and using the Alabama example as one where we turn the tide. But it wasn't actually talking about the political side of things. It was talking about when we show up for you, candidate X, where are you once you're elected for us? Mm-hmm. Why don't you hold yourself accountable to the things that you promise on the campaign trail now that you're in a position of authority and in a position where you could actually do something to quote unquote repay your voters who brought you into office? And so I basically did a call to action in that article where I said, and I think it's still relevant now, we need to get ourselves in office because we have our own best interests at heart. And I think if more of us were able to run and successfully win, and I think the most recent House of Representatives election shows that we want to run and we will run and we can win. And I feel like now you're starting to see from the House the types of legislation that benefit their own communities because they're actually there representing their own communities and those communities' interests. So to the extent that we have any responsibility, I would say that it is there, that we need to actually take back some of our power and put ourselves in the positions of authority to make decisions on our own behalves. Because we can't sit by and wait for someone else to do it for us because they've already shown us that they're not going to do it because they don't care. And if they do care, they also feel like, oh, well, that was 100 some odd years ago. I wasn't the one doing it, like you said earlier, Dr. Vibe. So they feel no responsibility to kind of write that legacy. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do it for ourselves. And the only ways that I see us being able to do that is if we come together and we're able to kind of apply pressure as a larger voting bloc or as a group, or if we vote ourselves into office and have candidates in office who look and sound like us and who genuinely have our issues at heart.
Okay. Just want to thank Joyce Snow for jumping on via Periscope. Much thanks. I know part of it is a political thing, but there also has to be social movement too. Don't you agree, Dr. Tachi? Because this is not just a political battle alone. And before you continue on, it's interesting. I've been reading a number of articles today about this, and people just think reparations, and I think Encyclopedia Brown, Ms. Leah was saying it, there's been more than just a financial cost. There's an emotional cost. What it's done to a lot of African Americans throughout the years, their spirits, their mental health, all the different effects. What are some of the effects that you have seen that reparations that have not been acted upon had to African American history and even African Americans today?
So can you go back, and I just want to make sure I'm answering you.
Okay, so what? Just to really concise it, what cost or what price has Black America paid for the lack of reparations?
Okay, so I guess what costs have they not paid?
Okay,
for the lack of reparation? There are numerous costs. So just in terms of not being able to, it's not a secret, and Leah already mentioned this, that your access to funding, access to capital, access to money gives you access to a lot of other things in this country. And when you don't have that, which many African-American families don't, you're starting like 700 years behind, figuratively, everyone else. And so there's no way you can catch up in a race when they started. If you're trying to run a race and they shoot the signal, and the other people started yesterday, you already lost if you're starting today. And so that, that's part of the thing that, having access to that type of capital or some sort of capital is that see businesses for money. Look at how many people we know that it's like, okay, perfect example. And we all laugh at this with HGTV. Love watching HGTV. But you'll have a couple, maybe like a non-melanated couple. It's like, hi, I'm Sarah, and this is my husband, Angelo. I raise salamanders and do goat yoga, and he paints artistic signs. Our budget is $9.1 million. Where the hell, raising salamanders, and he paints signs, do you have $9.1 million? Well, it's not theirs. That's something that has been carried on. That's generational wealth. So that's the hell why you can raise salamanders and teach goat yoga and then live in a $9.1 million house, because you have that generational wealth, okay? That's been carried on. That's something that many African-American families don't have. If there's any generational wealth, that's a very recent thing that has been started. And then because of students owing so much in student loans, etc., that type of thing is slowly being erased. And of course, that's being erased for a lot of people in the United States. But when we look at melanated people, specifically Black people, it's even worse because we already started behind. So when you start to make some gains and now there's a student loan crisis, etc., it's even worse for us. So yeah, there's so much in terms of, but that's just one way. That lack of generational wealth that we come to the table with is something that they have, and not all the time, but often based off of industries that use other people as labor. And that this is how their families amass wealth. And that's not all the time, but often if we go back far enough, you'll see where people have benefited from forced labor and how their families gained wealth from that. Again, not everybody, but there are lots of examples of that. And we see that with, for example, Georgetown University, these universities and all of that, and how they use slave labor. And so you're seeing everybody, even religious institutions, used slave labor to amass whatever it was they had. So, it's a problem. It's problematic when we talk about generational wealth. So that's just one way that reparations, some form of reparations, could help. Again, there's no way you could ever divvy up amongst the people that it would ever be enough. Each person would probably end up getting $241, and that would all be taken in taxes. There's no way you could ever, amass that. But, long answer long, that's one thing that you see, that lack of generational wealth and that lack of wealth in general prevents African-American families from doing other things.
Okay. Fantastic. Just want to catch up with comments here. Luke on Get Vocal saying, must admit, goat yoga, puts a smiley face. You're good.
And sign painting, okay? That's going to be another shirt right there.
There you go.
So, the goat yoga and sign painter have $9.1 million.
Okay.
And then on the back, reparations.
Yes. Dre saying President Obama said that reparations is the nation's original sin and it hasn't been repented from.
That's true.
On the backs of on the backs of Africans Americans were built. Dre keeps on going where their slave owners and their offspring benefited. Then Tachi talking about Georgetown. He's also putting First Baptist Church. What else? He's got some other things that is happening. Slavery is the original. I don't know what else he has here. Sin. And then Divine Right is on YouTube saying, if they want to start something that would benefit us, then pay for our kids to go to school, starting at the primary level, pay for college, pay off our student loans. We can start somewhere. No amount of money will ever be enough, ever, but we can start somewhere. And yes, we need more of us in office, city council, be community advocates, you name it. We need to represent more. And then she has a swanny face. Goat yoga and raising salamanders. She loved that.
Oh God!
Can I? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Before you go on, Tachi, that's the next T-shirt. You have goat yoga.
Salamander. And my budget is $9.1 million.
There you go. Keep on going. Go ahead, Tachi.
Oh gosh, I lost it.
It's all right.
It was
problem. Leah.
Go ahead, Leah, because it'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back to you. I'm sure it'll come back to you. I was going to say what I am more optimistic about, is sort of reparations happening on like an individual level or individual institutional level. For example, when you guys mentioned Georgetown, that triggered for me that recently at Georgetown, the students had a referendum where they voted to increase the tuition per semester per student by $27.20 in order to be able to pay off or pay for the college tuition of the 272 slaves that were held by Georgetown University, their descendants. And the students voted to pass that. So I kind of, it doesn't erase it. It doesn't excuse it. It's not okay that even happened. It's never okay. But I do feel like where we are going to possibly see change, because I don't have any faith in the political realm in terms of bringing about any meaningful change, just because of the way our political system is set up, especially now, but even before now, it was still messed up because nothing happened under Obama either. So it's not so much the people in office, it's the nature of how the offices work. But anyway, I think it's going to happen on an individual institutional level. And what I'm hoping to see is that other institutions will take their lead from Georgetown and do similar things. And I agree with what Divine Right was saying. And I said this earlier, that you can't quantify what's owed, but there are definitely things that you can do that will accelerate the progress that African-American community has to kind of catch them up, so that they may not necessarily get ahead of where the curve is, but they'll be on the curve with everybody else. And then it'll be up to them to take that, push and run with it. But we need to at least have that push to get back, like Tachi said, if they already started the race yesterday and we starting the race today, we're never going to catch up. But one way to help us get there is to go ahead and pay off those things, so we don't continue to have like this economic crisis and always continual and you can't get out of it kind of debt, which plagues not only the African-American community, but it's chronic in the African-American community.
I remember what I was going to say. Is it okay for
I
me
told
to?
you would.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. So I know that Divine Right had mentioned paying for college. A lot of people that is a good thing. And initially that was my thing. I'm like, okay, reparations in the form of actual monetary cash, maybe not, but okay, making sure that every child has the opportunity to go to college. So I think I've since kind of rethought that because of the nature of college. And this is, of course, me as a professor, and knowing what college is great. I have 3 degrees myself. I recommend it. However, I know what college does. And schooling in this country does in general. It teaches you to be a part of the machine. It doesn't teach you to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. And the only way to build generational wealth in this country is by being an entrepreneur. So I don't think that getting this money, perhaps maybe paying off student loans and things, that's fine. But I don't think that getting this money and solely focusing it on institutions who are only going to teach you to be part of the machine anyway is necessarily the best way to do it. What I would like to see is some type of that money set aside for small businesses and things like that to be able to generate that. Well, because that's the only way you're going to do it. This is a capitalistic society, and capitalist societies work off of, the free and open market. Allow us to really be part of the free and open market by starting with capital that will allow that. Now, when we talk about doing that, that's the opportunity for that would be there through that. Then there needs to be education programs, not by outsiders, but for people within the community to talk about different things, business acumen related wise. Because one thing we many people like to do is complain about Black businesses and complain about this and complain about that. And this is kind of related. It is related, but when you don't have a model for how things work, because that's not what happens in your community, what do you expect to happen? And again, this is not all Black businesses, but if there is a pipeline or something set up to make it happen and make it work more than what exists now, plus the guaranteed capital, I think there is the opportunity to really form real wealth that can be carried down through generations. That's just my 2 cents. I get off of my soapbox.
No,
I agree.
Stay on it. No, we didn't know you'd be able to get on it, but you're doing a good job tonight.
It's happy. I mean, there's never a question there.
You know
what I'm saying?
You know?
Tired, not tired. She always on point. But I was going to say, I totally agree with Tachi, and that was the second point that I was going to make, is that I think that if college is something that people want to do, then I feel like reparations could be applied to those students who want to pursue that. But I also think, even more importantly, is we need more economic stability and economic growth in the African American community, because I really do believe that's really the big domino in terms of like making a difference in our status, our socioeconomic status. And I agree with Dr. Tachi that we need to invest in African American communities, invest in Black business, create seed capital for grants, entrepreneurs, stabilizing, in institutions that provide health care, that people who don't have it, giving them basic human rights, things like that they are denied even still today, which to me is modern day slavery. I also think that another form of modern day slavery is the mass incarceration of African American, particularly men, but African Americans in America. I believe that we should do more to either get them out or have a better sort of program once they are out, a better rehabilitation to help them get back into society, more opportunities while they're in prison, especially for minor crimes. I'm not talking about people who, are committing like major crimes or whatever. I'm talking about petty crimes, which frankly speaking, the majority of African Americans who are incarcerated for not felonies, for misdemeanors or lower grade crimes. There needs to be a better way to deal with the prison population, and also a lot more of programs that are related to prevention, because I would say probably the vast majority or many African Americans who are in prison for the petty crimes are in there because of poverty. A lot of the stuff they did was due to desperation. It wasn't because they actually wanted to go hold somebody up. They needed money. They're starving. They have kids to feed. It doesn't justify the action or the behavior, but there's got to be a better way to deal with it. And I say this specifically because I see this phenomena really plaguing the African American community more than any other single subgroup in the United States at disproportionate numbers. So my idea of reparations isn't only monetary. it's more tangible in the sense that righting the wrongs that continue to be done against African Americans, particularly in the criminal justice system, in healthcare, in access to capital, in being able to get mortgages, to buy homes, which honestly is the first step towards wealth, is when you have a home of your own that you own. And a lot of African Americans don't have the ability to access capital to get that. So my feeling is, if we really want to be serious about reparations, I don't really want to hear about cutting checks, even though that would be nice. I want to hear about something that's tangible and long-term that will, over time, within a decade, completely change the outlook and the picture of what the African American look like from today to then. By changing and focusing on those areas, you could do a lot with very little. It just has to be strategic and has to be thoughtful. But it's like, I don't know why politicians or people who are in a position of power to make these decisions can't think of these things. Because I mean, I'm rattling these things off the top of my head. So a politician who's keyed in on their demographics and the communities that they're trying to serve, and I'm sure that there are many people who are more articulate about it and more knowledgeable than I am, informing them, advising them, it's not that hard to me to come up with ideas that I think are realistic, other than trying to quantify something that is not quantifiable, trying to repair something that is irreparable. Mm-hmm. Fix it now, fix it where we are now. And those are some of the ways that I think that they should do it.
So Encyclopedia Brown, you just said that you think there are many that are more knowledgeable and can put it better than them. I don't think, I think you're way ahead of most of them already.
Oh, thank you. That's
you're very welcome. Absolutely. No
indeed,
doubt about
indeed.
it. Luke on Get Vocal said something saying, I was hoping the last president would pardon tens of thousands on his last day. Would have been interesting.
Would have been nice.
And back to YouTube, Divine Right says, and when I say pay for our kids to go to school at the primary level, yep, we have public education, but to assist the private school education if we wanted to go that route. She also puts, and then we have some elders that have wealth and don't know what to do with it. So there goes an education piece for our elders on what to do with their wealth so we can build for the future generations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very well put. Very well put. With this whole, do you feel that this is going to be a major topic for the next election? Yeah.
Honestly, my feeling is that once we get past this stage and we're down to like the main candidate for both sides, that I really think that this will probably fall off as an agenda item. I highly doubt that once they get to the point of having the representatives from both sides, that this will be one of the major issues. I think it's going to go back to the typical issues. It'll end up being about abortion. It'll be about defense spending. It'll be about religious freedoms. It'll be about, the same issues that it's always about.
Okay. And Tachi, you sort of said, I could see the shake your head saying you probably agree with what Encyclopedia Brown just said.
Yeah, 100%.
I would find it very interesting to ask Americans, especially non-melanated Americans, why they don't like this when reparations were given to Orientals in America, to other groups in America. What is the holdback on this one? What do you, and like, do either of you have a comment on why is the holdback? Like, if we went out and talked average everyday American, what would they say? What do you think they say? Why is the holdback? Because this conversation is going on, but outside, the majority of people who are talking about it look like us. Those who don't look like us, silence, like we're hearing right now. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel there's, and maybe we should chat about it earlier, but we hear what the politicians say. I'd be very interested to see what the average everyday American says. Have you ever had this conversation about reparations outside of the Black?
I haven't.
No, wait, with non-melanated people, you're asking?
Yes.
No, when you say these things, I'm thinking of I was at the former university I used to work at, and you would think that university professors are trained in such a way that they can engage in such conversations and have critical thinking. The minute you start to say anything that's even race related, they all scurry to their offices.
Wow.
Let me tell you something about the academy. It's like, people think that there's a whole thing now, and there's a hashtag going on in communication. So the National Communications Association, we have there's a whole controversy now with the distinguished chairs, I think it's called. I don't remember. I'm not as active in NCA as I used to be, but there's a whole thing that went on, and one of the people on the committee actually wrote something to the effect of there was like diversity and inclusion, and we were trying to say, that there's not enough diversity in terms of these distinguished chairs that are selected. Oh, so of course, so somebody always puts their foot in their mouth about this thing about merit, and basically say, in not so many words, why is merit connected to what we're saying about diversity? So are you saying that people of diverse backgrounds cannot merit getting this honor? So of course, all of us now have denounced this type of thing, and we're like, oh, you need to step down. And so it shows you there's a hashtag also going around for us that's a communication so white. Somebody started that. So
Wow.
it's a huge thing. So people think that on university camp, you're starting to see now, but they think that, the professors are so open and there's all this open discussion. Often it's worse than corporate America.
Wow.
Damn.
So that to say, no, I have never had this conversation with, because, I've just, in the spaces that I've been, obviously outside in the artistic spaces, because, I straddle both worlds, and the dance spaces, etc. You hear these conversations, often. You hear these types of things. So even if it's not understood, you're trying to understand, or there's an effort to try and understand. So I've seen that in the art spaces, in the dance world, in the dance spaces, but in the academic spaces, hell no, I haven't.
Wow.
Unless they were melanated professors and then allies of melanated professors. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying, and I can't discuss it in my workspace because...
Please don't. No, please don't.
So even if we wanted to, we're prohibited. So, we just... Because, even if we're not talking about specific candidates or their specific points of view, it can still be perceived as potentially supporting one person or another, or sharing our political beliefs. So we're really kind of... People err on the side of caution. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
You just want to deal with the bull. With the BS. So
Stephen is making a very interesting comment here, saying, and when it comes to paying reparations, the other side has a claim too. What about the Americans that lost their personal property and many fortunes? That side of the argument keeps anything from happening.
What do you mean, like slaveholders losing their slaves so they had no more source of income? I don't care. I don't care if they lost their money.
Oh,
it was ill-gotten in the first place.
Oh yeah, well, and yeah, I don't give two damns about the people who lost. Yeah, it's ill-gotten. It's ill-gotten means.
Go yoga instead.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, okay, for example, a drug dealer who ends up losing everything that you got because they get arrested and it gets seized. Right. Well, you got it through ill-gotten means anyway. Exactly. So I can't cry for you, Argentina, when it does get taken away. So just like the people who, these fine, upright individuals who lost their wealth. I really don't give two damns that they lost their wealth, because you shouldn't have had it in the first place, because you didn't build it. Let's be clear. You didn't do any, not you, but them did not do anything. It was other people that worked for them for free that did all of this. So my thing is, here's my thing. How can, and all these people went to church every Sunday. All these people were fine, upright Christians. How can you read the Bible? How can you profess in somebody's church and pray to somebody's God and still do I know how they did it, because they made excuses for it. And then this is where the 3/4 of a person came in, because you don't feel bad if you have deemed this person legally not a person. So, okay, I don't feel bad about it now, but they're a person because you want them to go to church so that they can be, saved and all that. So now you're admitting I'm a person because dogs don't go to church. You don't feel the need to educate them and for their salvation, but you feel the need here. So there's an oxymoron there. There were all sorts of excuses made so that they did not feel bad. And still excuses made today so that people don't feel bad about it. But you know what I'm tired of doing, and I think what people of color are tired of doing, is saving people's feelings. I don't give a damn.
Yep. And what I can also add to Stephen's point is that, he made a point just now of saying that he thinks that the slave owners and whatever plantation owners were given some sort of reparation because of their loss of property and money or whatever at the time of emancipation. And so I would use that as further leverage for the reparation movements for ancestors of the enslaved, because I'm like, if the slave owners got reparations for losing property, which were human beings, then how can those very same human beings not be compensated for being illegally enslaved and being the major economic driver of the entire country at one period? So I would use that as leverage. Like, hey, y'all played the bad guys and now pay the good guys. I'm like, I don't understand it. And like I said, I really don't care. I don't care at all about the slaveholders or any of their ancestors at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. Like nothing.
On to the next.
Yeah. So, but I would just use it as I would use the claim I would use that as leverage to further press the case or the claim that ancestors of the enslaved deserve reparations, because they are actually ones who were the economic drivers. It wasn't the plantation holders. They were just telling people what to do and taking the money that they made on the backs of the enslaved. So that's all.
Okay. Well, it is, pardon me, it is the top of the hour. So I think we're going to shut it down. And as always, the ladies have done an outstanding job. And we're just getting to fire, but they wanted to have a hard stop at the top of the hour.
Do a part two. I mean, if it's a continuing conversation, I mean.
Yeah, well, we can do a part two. We can do a part two. We'll do a part one here, the part two. But what we'll say is, ladies, thanks again, as always, for, hold on a second here. Okay, now I've got my voice back.
Okay.
Yes, Luke, you're right. Trying to fit a 5-hour topic in a 1-hour show. Exactly. Well done, Luke. Well said.
Hundreds of years of conversation.
Exactly. But thanks again, as always. Contact information. Who wants to shut it out first?
Leah.
Okay. So you can find me everywhere at Leah World Traveler. LIA World Traveler, just like my name in the box. You can find me like that on my blog, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. I'm Leah World Travels. So look for me there. I'm also the content manager for Urban Intellectuals. You can find me there, and I'm also a freelance writer with Madame Noir. So feel free to reach out to me there, and I will respond. So Leah World Traveler. Everywhere.
And where will you be in a month's time or 2 months' time?
Well, in a month and 3 weeks, more or less, I'll be heading out to Armenia. So then we'll be, again, tri-country in this conversation.
All right. Dr.
Stephen, you got to practice Armenian, not Albanian, man.
Armenian.
I'll be able to communicate with you in Albanian. But good for you. I'm glad you're practicing it. Whatever language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Tachi.
Yes. Oh, you're asking me. So I can be reached on a myriad of different platforms. On Instagram, I am Dr._Tachi. On Periscope and Twitter, I am at Tachiada, TACHIADA. And on Facebook, you can reach me on the Mediascope page at Mediascope16. I'm actually the host of a show that I do every week on Periscope, Facebook Live, and WJMSradio.com called Mediascope. I talk about the best in media tech and pop culture news together with my co-host and producer, MC Curtis. And that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. And the day before that on Tuesdays, I am one half of the TV twins for the podcast TV channeling. We talk about we do TV reviews, talk about TV, film, and entertainment news. And it's loads of fun. We're on every single major podcasting app. And we're also on WJMSradio.com at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 2 p.m. Pacific, WJMSradio.com. And those shows both replay on Fridays on WJMSradio.com.
Yes. Fantastic. I will make it right quick, but as always, I'm going to shout out everyone who jumped on for a bit. Luke, I love that. I can't even speak Alabamian. That's hilarious. I thought it was classic. Okay, want to shout out on the Get Vocal platform. Luke, Brad, Dre, Bobby, Badges, Ms. Danny, So Steph, Stephen, Herbie. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop on by. We will have a part 2 of this epic conversation. Then on the YouTube platform, Divine Right, she was hilarious tonight. She left off with this comment saying, "Oh, oh gosh, it's gotten funny." Okay, Curtis Brooks says, starring Leah as Foxy Brown.
Okay. I think I take that as a compliment.
Yes. And
I mean, I'm wearing my red, black, and green wristband, and I got my African colors here. So,
Oh, wow.
reparations.
And Divine Right says, Tachi, let me know where to buy this church. LOL. Waste the skin, raising salamanders, goat yoga. And I got 9.1 million.
Right.
That is funny. You can reach
Lord.
on Periscope, Sonia Chen, J Money Queen B, Daryl W. Hutton, Sylvia Sulin, Flo M. Bernard, Claude Diamond, Herbie's Hand. I was going to say Herbie Hancock, but Herbie's Hangout. Thank you so much for making this an epic conversation. Best way to reach me, go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. My next conversation, continuing with this interesting week, 9:00 p.m., Friday evening Eastern Time. Going to have Dr. Stephen Lake on talking about white privilege.
Ooh.
So
I'm gonna have to bring on some extra guests for that one.
Yes. So, well, and he is of the non-melanated. So
I mean, I'm half. I can kind of play on both teams.
There you go. So that is happening. So as always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, and then, oh, I got it here. Why didn't I put it up here?
Aim bigger,
aim better, aim
higher, aim wider.
And I'm just going to add one other set of things. Accept people where they're at, fairness and respect, and shift culture.
Okay.
I forgot one of the things, but I said fairness and respect, accept people where they are. I know there's one other one.
Shifting culture and what?
There was accept people where they're at, fairness and respect. There's one other thing. There's shift culture, and there's one more thing, but whatever. Next time.
Next time.
So everyone, thanks very much. And if you can catch on Friday night, think maybe a conversation you want to check out. White privilege. No matter what color you are. Oh, actually, I brought it up. So let me get it right this time. I don't want to keep people on forever, but accept people where they're at, lead with love, fairness and respect, and shift culture. That's what we got. All right. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good, everybody. Bye-bye.